What is up, everybody, and welcome to our first episode of Mak Attack, where we teach Mac about sports.
I'm Mac.
That's Mac. And with us tonight, and this will be sports. We also have a special guest with us tonight, the one, the only, Hoodie.
Hi.
Hi, what's up? Our other co-host from our magical neighborhood. So this is super exciting. And I'm pretty pumped. How are you? How are you doing tonight?
I'm so pumped. I'm excited to be able to talk about Casey Jones for an hour. That's what I've heard. We're talking about hockey.
Heck yeah.
That's the extent of my knowledge.
We're going to learn all the hockey things, and well, at least the stuff that Makenna has questions about. So the show tonight is Makenna is going to ask questions about hockey, and I'm going to answer them. And we're also, she has notes. It's great. I'm going to tell her a few stories from hockey, some personal ones, some bigger ones, things like that. Also, we are going to, it's going to be a two-parter episode where we're going to have a friend. Next week, we're going to interview two and talk to you about some of his hockey stories. So we're going to interject that at the end of the episode, and it's going to be fun. And then we're going to put this out right in time for hockey playoff season, which is great. Which also brings me to, we are also going to be filling out playoff brackets, which is going to be so fun. So we'll see who does better, me or Makenna. It's going to be so much fun. I'm very excited for that. So let's get into it. Makenna, what is your first question?
My first question, how many players are on the ice?
How many players are on the ice? All right, so each team has 6 players on the ice at a time.
Okay.
So you have 3 forwards, you have 2 defensemen, and you have your goalie. And that is who's on the ice at all times. Now, there are some times when you have more players, sometimes when you have less players. So if you take a penalty, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you have one less guy on your side. Sometimes you won't have a goalie. If you're losing the game 2-3 and you have a minute and a half left of the game and you want to tie it up, some teams will pull their goalie. So they'll put an extra forward on the ice and try to score.
They're mixing and matching.
They're doing it. They'll do it. And I mean, you'll see that a lot in games, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, see if they can tie it up right before the end of the game. So those are some examples of times when you won't see the standard three forwards, 2 defensemen, and a goalie on the ice. So
you mentioned these positions.
Yes, positions.
Positions. What do they do?
So
what's their tasks?
That's a great question. I love this question. So I mean, your goalie, obviously, he's your brick wall. That's a lot of times, like goalie's doing good. That's what we call them, brick wall, because they're not letting anything past. That's who's stopping the puck from going in the net. That's their job. And they also have a couple little jobs too. Sometimes if the puck comes back to them and there's no one around, they'll clear the puck up out of their end of the ice, Also, when your team is, say, on a power play, when you have the extra guy on the ice, when the other team is taking a penalty, they will, towards the end of it, a couple seconds left, you'll hear this tap on the ice. That's them letting their team know, hey, it's almost time for even strength again. That guy's coming out of the penalty box. So that's his job. You'll see goalies doing that too, which is pretty cool. And even sometimes you'll see goalie fights. It doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while. There's legends like Rick DiPietro and Brett Johnson. The legendary goalie fight where Brett Johnson, one shot with a hook, knocked Rick DiPietro out. And I mean, Rick DiPietro had a rough career. He was one of my favorite goaltenders, actually. I tried to see that. I tried to see that boy play hockey so many times, and I never got to see him play a game ever. I went to so many Islander games. It's kind of sad, actually. But I never got to see him play. But there was this one game where, man, the Pens and the Islanders just could not stop fighting. And those two met center ice, and Brett Johnson, man, one shot and he broke his jaw actually.
Jeez.
But yeah, on the rare occurrence, you will see a goalie fight. So it's pretty interesting, especially seeing them fight, and they wear all kinds of pads to protect themselves. I mean, the most pads out of anybody else on the ice, and it's an interesting thing for sure. So then you have your defensemen. They're going to be the guys who hang out with your goalie, and their job is kind of like to stand and protect the goalie. That's really their job. They're, trying to clear the puck out of your end of the ice. They're trying to also stop the puck from going in the goal and not letting it back there. Also, then the forwards, they're the guys who are trying to score the goals most of the time. That's who's taking the puck up to the other end and going and scoring the goals. And that's the quick rundown on the positions.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. There's a lot less people than I would have expected.
You do have you have your center and your left wing and right wing. I mean, that's just kind of your center plays in the middle and your left wing plays on the left and your right wing plays on the right. So
What?
I mean, that's pretty easy. But yeah, they all play forward position and they all go forward and score the goals. That's their job.
Okay. Oh wow. Yeah. Whew. Hockey. What? You mentioned the power play.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So the power play, that is when your team, so the other team takes a penalty. The guy goes and sits in the box.
Okay.
Your team is on the power play, which means you have one extra guy on the ice. This is typically it's most of the time 2 minutes long. And this is when you have the extra guy on the ice. So you typically spend most of that time in the offensive zone, and you're passing the ball. I'm going to reference the Penguins a lot, obviously, because that's the team I see on TV most, thanks to national blackouts and things like that. I can't afford that NHL pass yet. Maybe someday. But we like to pass the puck a lot on the power play. It's awful. And that's when I scream at the TV, just shoot the puck at the net. And, things like that. It's fun. But that's, a lot of teams will score on the power play because they have that extra guy on the ice. So it's a good opportunity to score a goal.
Ooh, fun. Power play. What do the markings on the ice mean?
The markings on the ice. So for this part, I apologize to anybody who is listening to the podcast, because we have pictures now.
Visual aids.
Bam! Look at that.
Oh.
So here is the ice. This is what your ice on, for a hockey rink looks like. So you can see closest to us, the defending zone. We're just going to see this as one team, pretty much. This is the defending zone. This is where your goalie's going to be. You can see the two circles on each side. Mm-hmm. That's where different face-offs will be taken from if they're in that zone. So same with, you'll see, let's see these two circles here. Mm-hmm. Also will sometimes have face-offs. You'll have a face-off at center ice here too. And same for the other side. So sometimes when the linesman or the refs will call a high stick on the puck or a penalty, they'll have to pause the game and then they'll do a face-off. And depending on where the call was made, different places will signify different things. So this is where your defensive zone is. Your neutral zone, obviously, center of the ice, kind of that middle ground. And then your attacking zone up here. And this is where the other team's goalie will be, right up in here. Oh. So there's different things, obviously. All these lines mean and things like that. So a term you'll hear a lot with hockey is icing. Now, I think icing, and I'm like, yes, cake.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my brain went too.
Right? I mean, I think everyone's goes to cake. We used to have this joke, me and my friend, where it was like most girls, when they think of icing, they think of baked goods. Not me. I think of hockey or something. It was something silly along those lines. But so icing is something you'll hear a lot. And that is when, so if we're down here in our defending zone and one of our guys takes the puck and throws it all the way down here and nobody else can touch it or play it, that's when an icing call happens. So it's anything behind this line here. And they just whoop, they're like, nope, I need to clear it all the way out here. And they don't have like, it's kind of like a throwaway pass in football, almost, except, you know, they call it, and what they'll do is they'll bring it all the way back down here. You're not able to switch any of your guys off the ice, which is kind of sucks for that team because typically it's a play when your guys are tired and stuff like that. Just, you know, they want you to make a play trying to come out of your zone. They don't want you to just keep going, whoop, throw it down the ice, whoop, throw it down the ice. So that's what you'll see icing, and that's one of the most common calls. So, yep.
It's lines. They make a lot more sense now.
They do make a lot more sense. The one thing I do notice, there's typically also like a little trapezoid back here. There's a line here, usually, and a line here, and that signifies the zone where the goalie is allowed to play the puck.
Oh.
That's the only spot behind the net that they're allowed to touch the puck. They're not allowed to touch it out here, only behind.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. What are some common penalties? And how many minutes would you typically get for them in the penalty box?
So let's talk about penalties, because there's a few different kinds of penalties. So I'm just going to run through kind of what they all are, and then we'll talk about the different kinds. So there's minor penalties, major penalties, misconduct penalties, game misconduct penalties. Then there's match penalties and penalty shots. And then something that I don't think I've ever seen during a game, which is a gross misconduct penalty. So that's a lot. So for a minor penalty, you'll get 2 minutes. Just a 2-minute penalty, easy. Double minor, which happens sometimes, not too often. Obviously, 4 minutes. A major penalty, you're going to get 5 minutes. Misconduct, you get 10. Game misconduct, the rest of the game doesn't matter how much. And match penalty, the team is shorthanded for 5 minutes, but whoever got that is out for the rest of the game.
Whew.
So here they're actually there is a list here of different penalties. There's actually a biting penalty, which is a major penalty.
Lovely.
In case you were curious. That's a 5-minute game misconduct. And, you know, I'm not sure if I've ever seen someone bite, but Brad Marchand from the Boston Bruins used to like to lick people for a few games. It was very odd. Yeah. I have his jersey. So there's fighting. Fighting usually carries a 5-minute major but that's typically a match penalty. Both guys will go to the box because you can't have a fight with one guy. High sticking is another common one, which, I mean, that also is guy kind of takes a stick and hits someone high with it. This is one of those cases where you can see a double minor, because if the person bleeds who got high sticked, then they get a double minor. If the person doesn't bleed, then it's just one penalty. Hooking is another one, which is, you know, if they take the blade of the stick and they hook the guy or hook their stick. Yep.
Brutal.
It can, you know, so hockey is a rough sport, which brings me to my next penalty, roughing. Roughing is kind of an interesting one because sometimes you'll see this called instead of fighting. So if it's kind of like a not like full-fledged fight and they're kind of just pushing and shoving a little bit, you'll see them call roughing instead of fighting. And yeah, that's not. Spearing is another one, and that is when you stab somebody with your stick blade. You go like this and just give them a stab with your stick blade. This is one of my favorite though, and this is one you see a lot, which is too many men on the ice. So this is obviously an easy one. You accidentally slip an extra guy on the ice. But there was this one time there's a player, great guy, Gary Roberts. He was your very stereotypical rough guy. And they must have had some, I don't know if it was a typo, if someone did this on purpose. I would love to think someone did this on purpose, but they typed too much man for the penalty, and that's what came up on the screen. And that really stuck with him for a very long time. It was one of the best things I think I've ever seen.
Too
And
much, man.
just thing with Gary Roberts, I was fortunate enough to see him play lots of games in Pittsburgh, and there was one time that it was I believe it was a playoff game, and there was a player by the name of Ryan Whitney that, here, we're gonna share my screen so I can show you this picture. That he was just not a huge fighter, and he decided to fight. There you go. Pittsburgh Penguins, too much man at 9:49 against Colorado.
Too much, man.
Too much man. Love it. That is Gary Roberts. And as you can see by the look on his face, he was too much man.
The much man I've ever seen. Too much.
Too much man. So Ryan Whitney tried to, he gave it his best in this fight, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, is Ryan Whitney fighting, really? And, everyone cheered for him. They left the ice because it was towards the end of the game. Literally within like 5 seconds of the next puck drop, Gary Roberts tried fighting like the rest of the team that was on the ice. And it was just like, okay, yeah, that's about right. That looks cool. Like that's more about what we expected here. So
take them all on at once.
Yep, and that was Gary Roberts. I mean, that's just the kind of player he was, and he was very well respected around the league, and definitely here when he was here for a very long time. So, just a list of a few other penalties. We have goaltender interference, holding, just interference, kneeing, roughing, slashing. There are some actually really funny ones that I don't think I've ever seen called, like here, illegal equipment. I don't think I've ever seen that called. Leaving the penalty bench too early. Throwing puck towards opponent's goal. Don't think I've ever seen that happen. That's like, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that called in an actual game. So those are some minors. Benchminers, which are penalties that you can take while you're sitting on the bench. Abuse of an official, face-off violation, illegal substitution, refusing to start play. I don't think I've ever seen that one called either. So, and stepping onto the ice during the period if you're a coach. I've never seen that one called either. Yeah.
Let's see it. My hand is raised.
Okay. Question.
Refusing to start play. With that, is it exactly what it sounds like, where I'm not going to play this game with you? That's
exactly what it sounds like. Sounds like something that the Rangers should have done a couple weeks ago against the Capitals, huh, Makenna?
Yeah.
But, yep, that is exactly what that is.
I want to see that.
I do too. Like, these are this is just a great list of penalties. And like, like I said, there's a lot that we see common, like hooking and slashing and things like that. We see these called quite often. Some of these I've just, and here's some major penalties. We've got boarding and charging and elbowing, headbutting. I don't think I've ever seen headbutting called in hockey. I saw it in soccer once, but I've never seen it in hockey. Illegal check to the head, kneeing and spearing and slashing. Now, there are not too many major penalties, so you see a lot of these I've seen called, except, like I said, I think the headbutting, I don't think I've seen that one called. Thankfully, I don't think I'd want to see that one called. So, yeah. But there are definitely a lot of penalties. A lot of interesting.
Yeah. Wow. Even more of a brutal sport than I thought it was. Hearing everything.
It's gotten a lot calmer over the past few years. I'll give you that. But yeah. Considering they used to play with like leather helmets or no helmets at all, actually, too. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad they switched to the material that it's made of now.
Well, while we're talking about penalties, let's jump into one of these stories about one of my favorite players, John Scott. Now we did bring up John Scott when we talked about Tom Wilson, and I love this article. I was reading this article the other day, and this quote just from him goes, "I remember where I was and what I was doing." Now, John Scott, he was probably somebody that few fans would have remembered, if not for what happened in the 2015-2016 season. John Scott joined the American Hockey League in 2006. His first professional season was 2006-2007, where he signed with the Minnesota Wild. And then his first NHL game was against the Detroit Red Wings. Then in the 2009 and 10 season, he scored his first goal on November 15th, 2009, against the Carolina Hurricanes. He went to the Blackhawks in 2010. Then he was traded to the Rangers in the 2011-12 season. Then he went to the Sabres. And as you can see, he was a player that bounced around. Yeah, and you see these guys everywhere. A lot. He did. He played a lot of places. Mm-hmm. In May 2013, he went in 2012, he went to the Sabres and they re-signed him to a 1-year extension worth, and this is league minimum, $750,000. Obviously a lot to you and me, but league minimum, that's not a lot for a hockey player. He finally scored his second career goal on December 27th, 2013. Then in 2014, he went to the San Jose Sharks. Now, this is he got suspended for 4 games, I think. And that was in December, that year. And then in 2015, he signed a 1-year contract with the Arizona Coyotes. Okay, so he's already been with a handful of teams at this point. So in 2015, 2016, it was announced that John Scott was the winner of the NHL All-Star Game fan vote. So let me explain this to you. So in each division, fans could vote on one person that would absolutely make it to the All-Star Game. Now, All-Star Game, you think of big name hockey players. Now, we've talked about some hockey players, and most people know guys like Sidney Crosby and, Connor McDavid and those big name guys. Like, even if you don't watch a ton of hockey, these names ring a bell. Nobody knows who John Scott is. Nobody does. Okay? So, this is the best part here. Because so these fan votes, or captain for the team. So he got fan votes for captain for the team representing the Pacific Division of the Western Conference. Scott received the most votes of any player, despite having only recorded 1 point in 11 games played with the Coyotes, because he spent most of that season as a healthy scratch and scored only 5 goals in his entire career up to this point. All right.
Oh my God.
So the situation was compared to Rory Fitzpatrick's All-Star campaign in 2007, where fans vote for a player who could not conventionally been chosen as an All-Star to highlight a role player. So that's another story. So a TSN analysis, Bob McKenzie, he's a pretty big name in sports reporting for hockey and things like that, reported that the NHL and the Coyotes had both requested that Scott remove himself from the All-Star team. After being advised on the campaign, Scott made a statement to the NHL fans saying, "Listen, I don't deserve this vote from my teammates." After he was declared the winner of the fan vote, Scott decided that he would play in the game. Okay. I love this story so much, but here is where, because it's different. Okay, it gets different. On January 15th, 2016, and I will never forget this, Scott was traded to the Montreal Canadiens along with a couple other guys. And after he was traded, the Canadiens sent him down to their AHL affiliate. So you have your NHL team, and then you have your AHL team and their farm team, basically. Mm-hmm. The St. John Ice Caps. The Arizona GM insisted that the trade was a business move, and it was not to keep John Scott out of the All-Star game. But obviously, they traded him to a completely different division and everything. And this is pretty much right before the All-Star game. Like, the All-Star game is end of January, I believe. I'm trying to think what day it was. I'm not sure it's listed here. But anyways, so we'll continue. Speculation surfaced that he was going to be ruled ineligible because of the move to the AHL roster, since they sent him down to their minor league team. Mm-hmm. But it was officially declared on January 19th that he would be the captain of the Pacific team on the roster. So here's the best part. During the All-Star game, it gets better. I'm not done. I literally have a letter like I said, I have the t-shirt and it's sitting right over there. It's my John Scott All-Star shirt over there. I almost wore it tonight, except I really wanted to wear my Helmut shirt. But, it gets better. I have a signed letter from him and everything, and his book is so amazing. It's called A Guy Like Me. I highly suggest you read it. It's amazing. It's great. Anyways, so during the All-Star game, he scored 2 goals in the semifinals of the tournament to get his team into the finals. And the Pacific Division won. And he was named MVP of the All-Star game. Despite not being included in the voting, he still got named MVP. When he was excluded, fans, including players, like big name players like Henrik Lundqvist, and the official accounts from teams like the Senators and the Flyers, the Canucks, the Oilers, like all these other teams, they all were like, nope. They took to Twitter, #vote MVP Scott. I'm pretty sure this was why I made a new Twitter account, was to get him to be the MVP. And with all the support, the NHL had no other option except to give him the MVP title. Like, they couldn't say no because everybody knew that he had won the MVP title. Like, that was it. They're done. Yep. His helmet's in the Hall of Fame from that game, which is awesome. And I know that there was talks about doing a movie on this whole situation. I don't know how far that's ever gone, but I would love if they would actually do that. So he was eventually called back up to the Canadiens later in that season. It was in April. He didn't score. Right after the game, he was given the option to return to St. John's to finish the season or return to Michigan to see his family for the first time in 2 months. And he ended up returning home. There are some amazing pictures from that game. During that whole time, his wife was pregnant, I believe, with twins, and he had 2 little girls, and they are flipping adorable. Like, some of the pictures are just like the cutest things. And just the whole story is, that is probably one of my favorite stories in recent hockey history, because it was just so heartwarming. Like, after all of that, it was just great. And one of the coolest things, so he actually didn't wear, all of the guys typically wear their team somewhere on their jersey. He didn't, because he technically didn't have a team in that division. So here, I'm gonna show you this picture of him with his daughter.
Oh my goodness! Oh,
Just so sweet. I love it. That's from the All-Star weekend. It's just so cute.
That's adorable.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was, like I said, it's just such a great story. And this is and I think this is actually the picture that is based off of the t-shirt that I have from Sauce Hockey, which is a fantastic place to buy sports everything. I appreciate them a lot, and they make great clothes.
Oh my god. That makes my heart so warm. I love that story.
It's such a good story. And here, I'm going to add this real quick, and you can see the picture of his teammates lifting him up on their shoulders. He is not a little dude. I love that. That's just fantastic. So, yep. Look how happy he is.
He looks so happy.
I just love it. I love it so much. All right. So that's my story about John Scott and fun penalty things. So let's get on to questions.
I actually have a question for you, Erica.
Okay.
Why do you like hockey?
Oh gosh. Why do I like hockey? Man, we want to sit here for another 3 hours and I can tell you why I like hockey. Honestly, so I think, I make it pretty apparent that I live in, the good old Steel City. And we are very much a football town, and that's great. And I'm not saying anything bad against football. I'll watch football as well. But, I was always just more drawn towards hockey. And that was kind of like my time away from a lot of things. And that was my happy place. And, my family would all be watching the football games, and I'd be in another room watching hockey by myself. And that was quite all right with me. And I loved it. But I'm also very lucky because my mom is a huge hockey fan. So every year, typically, obviously this year excluded, we will go to a hockey game, me and her, for her birthday / Christmas. I'll buy her we'll get super good tickets and sit super close, and we'll get real nice food and stuff and go to a game. And we've had a lot of fun. We've gotten some good seats. We sat right next to the penalty box a couple years ago for an LA Kings game. It was super cool. And LA Kings.
LA Kings.
I actually have a picture with the one guy who was sitting in the penalty box. I was sitting next to the penalty box. I'm like, look, it's him. It's the guy. And my mom, one of her old favorite players, who is now one of the announcers for our team, in between the benches after the game, she was like, hey, it's my birthday. Can I get my picture? And he turned around and took a picture with her and stuff. So, we'll sit next to the runway so we can fist bump all the guys when they come down the runway and things like that. So it's fun. That's nice. I think that's pretty much I don't even know if there was a certain moment or time or anything. It was just kind of hockey's on. This is going to be my thing. And I just kind of went with it. And I'm lucky that I get to be in a good sports town when it comes to hockey. We've been very spoiled for a long time, and I will very much admit that. But also, I don't just watch the Penguins either, though. I'll watch if there's a game on the television. I don't care who's playing. I'm probably going to watch it if I have free time. So I'll watch everybody play. I just love watching hockey. So yep.
In that same vein,
Mm-hmm.
I realize, I think I probably know the answer to this already, but why do you specifically the Penguins?
So obviously, I think that answer is because I'm in Pittsburgh, and that's that's the one that I watch the most. But like I said, if you look in my closet, I don't think you would be able to tell that I was a Penguins fan. Honestly, I have Tampa Bay jerseys, and I have Boston jerseys, and my mom has a Flyers jersey. And I know that's sacrilegious in Pittsburgh. You are not supposed to own a Flyers jersey if you live in Pittsburgh, but we do. I have LA Kings shirts. I have a guy who plays on the Flyers now that literally got suspended in the game that we played against them. But I have his Team North America shirt because I love that kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll actually get me. I'm going to jump into my next story about. Actually, I have two stories. So I'm going to tell you a personal story about the time I got to meet Aaron Asham, which is, again, a name that not a lot of people are going to remember probably, except for probably some Flyers fans. Aaron Ashton played for the Flyers for a long time, and he was always a phenomenal player in the playoffs. And then we got lucky enough to pick him up, and I was so excited because I loved watching him play. He was one of my favorite players. He was just fantastic. And I bought his Winter Classic jersey, and I was actually downtown. It was when I was still in school, and I was walking around wearing his jersey. And I was near the arena, and I hear, hey, you want me to sign that? And I turn around, and like he literally pulled over and was like, you want me to sign you want me to sign that jersey for you? And I'm like, sure.
It's like a movie moment.
And then he's like, hey, I don't see a lot of these around here. And I'm like, I've been a fan for a while. I'm like, I liked you while you were in Philly. And he goes, I won't tell anybody else. Like, okay, thanks. Like, that's fantastic. I was just like, this is great. I love this so much. But like I said, I wear my Colorado jersey to games all the time, and my Tampa. Like we were talking before we started recording, my Tampa jerseys. I have a Marty St. Louis jersey that's ancient. He's been retired for years now, but I'll wear that to Tampa games all the time. I'm not sure I'll wear my Boston jersey to games here, but that's just because it's a Brad Marchand jersey and it doesn't quite fit right. It is one of those cheap knockoff ones. So it's not that great. One of these is a good old nice one. But that brings me actually to another cool story that I want to talk about, the Carolina Hurricanes. This is one of the most fun things. Even if you're not a huge hockey fan, I recommend following the Canes on social media because they have one of the best social media presences for a sports team, hands down. Like, they're just hilarious. I love them. So there was this commentator. His name was Don Cherry. He's since been fired for some. It was just a long time coming. We're not going to get into Don Cherry right now. But he used to wear these like bright, crazy suits and stuff like that. You know, crazy old man yelling at clouds thing. But he was an analyst from Canada. And he referred to the Canes as a bunch of jerks one Saturday night. Oh. And let me tell you, they rolled with it. And I was there for it. So they did, like, they announced the next day that they changed their Twitter profile, like, you know, their profile that just said bunch of jerks.
Oh my gosh.
They started selling shirts the next day. You better believe I have one in my closet. It's fantastic. I wore it out to dinner with my corporate boss actually one time. It was amazing. He's like, what does your shirt say? I'm like, bunch of jerks. I'm like, I don't want to be out with you guys. I want to be at home watching hockey. Like, the game's on right now. Come on. But yeah, they just rolled with it. They sold them. And it said, you asked and we delivered about 20 hours later. That was from their vice president of marketing and brand strategy. Man, that dude deserves a raise. That's all I have to say. Yeah, it was because, so they have a unique celebration for when they win at home. So they're the Hurricanes. So they had this storm surge is what they did after they would win games at home. And they would come back out on the ice and have these fun celebrations for their fans. Now, the Canes have not been good in years, like prior to, this bunch of jerks situation. They hadn't been good in a really long time. Let them have fun. They're a young team. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you just because they're goofing off and having a good time? They're spraying water bottles and dropping Gatorade all over each other. Who cares? They're not hurting anybody. They're having fun. Like, and you're going to sit there and call them a bunch of jerks. I'm sorry. Like I said, old man yelling at clouds. You need to just sit down and like maybe go have some fun yourself, which I don't know what he's doing now. Because like I said, he has since been fired, which makes my Saturday nights way quieter. So I'm not going to complain. But yeah, I just love it. And here I'm going to show you the shirt because it is fantastic. There's the shirt, bunch of jerks. Yep.
That's
And
good
like I
design.
said, I have that in my closet and it's fantastic. I wear it quite often. I love it. It's great. So which I was just very glad that they put it for sale so that everyone could buy it and not just like have it for sale at their team store. Because that would have been a little sad. So
I think
Yep.
Hoodie has a question.
Hoodie has a question. Raise his hand. What's up, Hoodie?
I don't want to interrupt the story.
You're
So
fine.
I'm waiting until it comes back to the open floor.
Okay. Your turn.
Okay. I have 2 questions now.
Okay, questions.
The first would be, I love the Scott story so much.
Okay.
I think
I could talk about him for hours, honestly. I really could.
I want an entire podcast that's at least 4 hours long about it.
Maybe we could do that. Maybe we'll do that one of these days.
It's a moment that I've just learned about now.
Okay.
And I'm thankful that you've told it to us, because that is one of the peaks of humanity right there. That's fantastic.
It really is.
You were mentioning though movies come up. Oh wow, my ears they perk. Here I am.
They would.
Now, if you had to fan cast Scott, who are you picking?
Oh,
and
good.
Why?
Good. This is a good question.
I do have a follow-up question, which is more hockey related.
Okay, let's go to the follow-up question while I think about this fan cast thing, because I might need to think on this for a minute. So go ahead with your follow-up.
So the follow-up question would be, bare minimum knowledge of sports altogether.
Yes.
But there have been people from like the UFC or MMA that have transitioned over to WWE or different affiliations like that, vice versa. Have there been? This is going to sound like I'm joking. I'm not. I want to make sure this is a legitimate question that I'm asking. Have there been any figure skaters who have gone from that career path into hockey or vice versa?
I love this. So let's talk about Jeff Skinner, because he actually has a background in figure skating. Let me pull this up real fast. Figure skating, ice hockey. Not ice hockey movie. Is there really a figure skating ice hockey movie? We might need to look at that later. I know
that one in theaters.
You think I saw that?
Michelle Trachtenberg?
I don't know.
I got really excited about this Disney movie that I'm thinking of.
So I am fairly certain. I know I said Jeff Skinner, but I feel like I got that wrong.
Hoodie, are you thinking of Go Figure?
Oh,
Go Figure.
So there's 2 that came out that year or within the same, like a short time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both Disney movies about ice skating. And I feel, I'm going to Google Go Figure. Hold on. One is Michelle Trachtenberg for sure, though.
Okay.
Okay, Go Figure is the Disney Channel original.
Okay.
And then, let me search. This has gone from hockey to Ice Princess is the other one.
Ice Princess.
Yes.
Nice. Well,
what is?
Didn't The Rock play a movie with hockey where he was the Tooth Fairy? Wasn't that also hockey? Because that was actually my first thought with John Scott fan casting was The Rock.
Ooh.
And with him already having a hockey movie. And I do believe that Jeff Skinner was the one who did have, I know his family. So I pulled this article where there's hockey, figure skating, soccer, swimming, and singing lessons.
Oh, wow.
And he also took acting classes too. It's in, I think. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they had 6 kids and they were all involved in many, many things. So yeah, actually there have been quite a few hockey players that do have figure skating in their backgrounds. I'm not quite sure if anyone had like a professional figure skating career, that transitioned over to hockey. but I do know that there have been quite a few hockey players, kind of like football play. There are football players who take ballet. And I think it's kind of on a parallel to that almost, except in a bit more of a high-end type deal since it's figure skating. But yeah, that's actually a really good question.
I was so curious about it because I was looking up myths about hockey. And
Yeah.
one of the myths that came up is, do you have to know how to skate backwards? I was like, what? Do they know how to figure skate?
So Skinner was the one. He took figure skating before he decided to take hockey. Former and current NHL players, including Paul Carrera, Dave Poulin, Colby Armstrong, and Zachary Ewan, all started in figure skating. And that's from an article in 2015, so I'm sure there's more. Actually, Colby Armstrong used to play for the Penguins as well. I met him a few times. Very nice young man.
Oh, fantastic.
So there you go. Quite a few.
Wow. Thank you.
I think fan casting, I might have to go for The Rock though. Just because I think that's the one. That's the one I think I'm going with. I think that's what I'm gonna go with.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Cool. My other story that I had to go with that one, I did have another story related to the Canes, which just happened last year, 2020, before all the bad times. I think this was last year. David Ayres, who was an emergency backup goaltender. So he's actually a Zamboni driver at the Toronto Stadium. Okay. Do you know this story?
I do know this story.
Okay. This is a fantastic story. It's one of the better stories from last year. So the Carolina Hurricanes, both of their goaltenders got injured during a game. So David Ayres, the worker for the Toronto Stadium, also their emergency backup goaltender for that location, had to get dressed for the Carolina Hurricanes, the team that his home stadium is playing against, which is kind of funny. But at 42 years old, he won the game for the Carolina Hurricanes against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it is so incredible. This is one of my favorite stories. I have also, because they did a t-shirt for him. So it looks like the Canes away jersey. It's the white jersey with the Canes across diagonal down the front with his number and name on the back. And yes, he became the oldest player to ever win in their NHL debut at 42 years old.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And he had one heck of a ride last year in February. I know they flew him down to Carolina they have a siren that they go do at the beginning of the games, to pump everybody up and stuff. And he did so many interviews everywhere. But yeah, this was just such a cool story, and you just felt so good for him. And because not only that, he had such a long story too, just from coming from, he had a kidney transplant years before this, to setting this record of being the oldest player, person to win their NHL debut. It's just super, super cool. But yeah, it's such a good story, and I love it. It's one of my favorites. So it's definitely a touching one. So
yeah, I remember reading about it whenever it happened, and you'd be like, oh, this is so cool.
I cried a lot that week. I cried a lot that week. All the different articles and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know all the guys just were kind of told him yeah, go just have fun with it. Don't worry about it or anything. It's fine. Just have a good time and everything. And then, yeah, they ended up winning that game, which is absolutely incredible. I would play the post-game speech, but I'm pretty sure Rod Brindamore, great coach, probably going to win the Jack Adams this year, but I'm pretty sure he swore a little bit in that. So maybe we'll listen to that after the podcast is done, but it's a very good one. But yeah, It was definitely it was good, and you're just is one of those guys you can't help but be happy for. So that was a good story from last year.
Yay!
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 Yay! All right. Do you have any more questions?
No, I think for now that wraps up my questions.
That wraps up your questions. Hoodie, do you have any more questions?
Oh, no, you answered my questions perfectly. Love them.
Fantastic.
Thank
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we are going to have our special guest, Eric, with us to tell us more stories. And we're going to discuss the big question, Crosby versus Mcdavid. We're going to get Makenna's thoughts on that because it should be fantastic and interesting to see what she has to say. And I can't wait to hear it. So we will talk to you all in a minute. What's up, everybody? We are back, me and Makenna, with our special guest, Eric. Eric, what is up?
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Excited to talk hockey.
I'm so excited that we finally do. Like, we've talked about hockey a lot the past, year and a half, probably.
Yeah,
and I'm finally excited just to be able to sit here and talk to you about it. Like, actually talk. It's exciting. So I'm pretty pumped.
It's been good. We've had a lot to talk about. You know, we've been gushing over Jeff Carter.
Jeff Carter.
Yes. It both hurts and delights me how well he's doing. Mostly hurts right now because they keep reminding us how bad he was with LA. So, whatever.
I can understand that. I can understand. He has been on. I think he's got 14 goals since he's come over to the Penguins. Something like that.
Right. He had 8 with like 40 games with LA. So, you know, good to see him go. Good to see him going good.
I'm glad. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, do you want Jeff Carter on your team? I'd have been like, haha, no. I'm pretty excited right now. I'm not going to lie. So,
that's true.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Makenna has some questions. Mac, go ahead and ask away.
Hockey. Sports. Hockey.
Good start.
Thank you.
Solid.
Why do you like hockey?
Man, that's a good question.
She got me with this one last week, so yeah, I understand.
So I get asked that a lot, and primary reason you guys asked me to be on here just because I've been on a little a mini journey with my partner Nicole, as we travel across all 31, soon to be 32 NHL cities. So it's a question I've actually gotten a few times when I've gone to Canada, and the only one I'm missing up north is Winnipeg. I'll get there eventually. It's really far and out of the, in the middle of the country. But yeah, it started the 2010. I think like a lot of people saw 2010 Olympics with Sid the Kid golden goal, which my Canadian friends still remind me of, which is fine. But who won World Juniors, guys? Throwing it out there. So that was my first introduction to it, and just the speed and just the intensity of the entire time, just back and forth until you get that moment of the goal going in, and just it erupts.
Yep.
I grew up in LA, so not a lot of snow. Safe to say. Growing up, the Kings weren't good. Like, I knew of them, but being hockey in LA is interesting because it does have a devoted fan base, but at the same time, it's probably the fourth biggest sport there. Like, the Lakers are otherworldly, the Dodgers are otherworldly, USC football, UCLA football, and then eventually you get the hockey, which you do get this very big hardcore contingent near downtown where at Staples Center where the Kings play, but also where the players live, often like Hermosa Beach, the South Bay. Like, you can go there. You'll see them hanging out, going to restaurants. No one bothers them, but they're pretty, enriched in that community. So, like, it's a very interesting dynamic with hockey and just the growth of LA and the Stanley Cups. It helps. Winning helps.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first bit of hockey that I watched was 2011 Stanley Cup Finals, Bruins, Canucks.
Oh, wow. I have a good story from that.
Yeah, super physical series, Game 7, and then rioting after Vancouver loses the cup, unfortunately. Yeah. But who doesn't love a good riot?
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Then afterwards, started following them for some reason. So I started watching the season afterwards, like actually trying to learn names, stats, rules. Because trying to explain icing to people, it's weird. You can don't throw the puck behind this line. If not, it goes back over there.
Nope.
Sure. I started watching. For some reason, fell in love with Matt Green. and the whole defensive core there in LA. They were very defensive, and I usually like defensive teams for some reason in my overall sports life. And then they won a Stanley Cup, and that gets you excited, you know. It just does. It's good.
You picked a great time to start watching the Kings.
I did. And then 2 years later, I introduced Nicole to it, who was my girlfriend, and then her first year they won again.
Nice.
So weird.
That is awesome. So
yeah. So it's
introducing people to Kings hockey, and then they'll win more Stanley Cups. See?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's been great. And then just randomly one night, I think it was probably the 15-16 season. So the year after they won the cup, we were like, I forgot what show we're watching, but I think it had to show the city of Nashville there, and I was going to school at the time over in San Francisco, and my spring break came up, and I was like, the Kings play in Nashville. This kind of seems like destiny. So we went, loved it, talked to people, and then as soon as you show up anywhere that isn't outside of California with Los Angeles merch, people want to talk to you, and it's kind of how it started. Me going like, maybe this is something we do, and then we've kind of just stuck with it since then.
That's so cool. So yeah, I love it. So how many stadiums have you been to now?
Halfway done. Actually halfway done. The
awesome.
last one was Denver, saw the Abs. And then the last live game I went to was a Stadium Series games. I think it was February 13th, 2020. It was a Kings Avs at the Air Force Academy, which was really cool, which is the first outdoor game I've been to. But yeah, exactly halfway. That's
awesome. And yeah, that outdoor game, that Kings Avs game was amazing. I was watching that one on TV.
Yeah.
And
Tyler Toffoli hat trick.
Yep. Absolutely. I love Tyler Toffoli, man. What a guy. Well, and it's kind of funny because I know that we met through the Kind of Funny Kind of Hockey group, which is awesome. Yeah. And I like I always say, I'm a Pens fan, but I'm a hockey fan. I love the Kings. I have my Onze t-shirt at home, and I have my autographed ice card from him sitting on my hockey shelf with all the rest of my stuff. And yeah, it was one of the first games that me and my mom would go to a game typically every year. Obviously, we missed this year for obvious reasons, but we go to a game every season. We always try to get like real good seats, and we went to see the Kings a few years back, and we got tickets right next to the penalty box for the Kings. So Drew Dowdy was in the box, and I'm like, oh, look, he's right there. And then I have this great video during warm-ups of Onze dancing to the warm-up music, and it's one of my favorite things. I love it. And yeah, the Kings have always been one of my favorite teams, and it was so cool to meet another Kings fan, and so I always see Kings stuff, and I'm like, I need to tell Eric. And it's great. I like a lot of the West Coast teams. Them and the Avs. I know I talk about the Avs. I love the Avs. Nathan Makenna just got a hat trick the other night, so it was great. It was a good game. Other than that an awesome Kadri hit was a little rough, but hey.
That's classic Kadri in the playoffs, but that's a conversation for another time.
First round just happens to be it, but you're right. That is a conversation for another time. Man, so yeah, that's great. So have you been to the Penguin Stadium yet then? I gotta ask you that.
I have not yet. I almost went to Philly.
Okay.
For some reason, the schedule hasn't lined up. There's two weird things I've noticed about the NHL schedule that I want to complain about. Is how come road trip wise, how come there's never a back-to-back between Vegas and Arizona that I can go to? They always do a home and home with Vegas for some reason every year. And then COVID happened, so they did that a lot this year, but under normal circumstances. And then they would always do Philly. It's always part of the the New York trip. So they'll play the Islanders, the Devils, the Rangers, and then go to Philly, and then avoid Pittsburgh for another road trip. Yeah. And I'm like, I would like everything to connect. So sometimes that's definitely a challenge, but I think I just have to map it out. I know I got people in Buffalo that want to hang out with me, and love to go watch a game with you. For sure.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, it's just I need these schedules, man. And they also don't change a lot. So
they don't. And I've noticed that the Penguins typically love to play the Red Wings around Valentine's Day every year. Never fails. It's always right around Valentine's Day, and I just think it's hilarious. I'm like, what? It's just something silly about that schedule. But
maybe it's the red. It's
Yeah,
correct.
there you go. It works. I mean, we do typically play Boston right around St. Patrick's Day as well, because I know I took my mom to a Boston game a few years ago, and it was, I think, the day after St. Patrick's Day, thankfully, so we didn't hit the parade traffic and everything, but yep, play Boston right around St. Patrick's Day every year too. It's kind of funny how those schedules work out like that.
Yeah. But I'll make my way up there. I've seen Sydney play at Staples twice. I think 3 years ago and then 4 years ago. I'll usually try to hit up the marquee games. Back when I did live in LA, I live in the Bay Area right now, so Sharks territory. Sharks, stop. All right, you're bad too. Stop letting me hear it. Okay. But it's fun to be up here right now, just where the two teams are at. I think the last game that I went to at the Shark Tank pre-COVID, it was just, there'd be usually a lot of trash talking on my way to walking to the arena. We were both bad. I looked at a lot of Shark fans who just went.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
As you're talking about pre-COVID games, the last game I went to pre-COVID, I took my mom and my niece. That was for my niece's birthday. And honestly, I cannot remember what team we played, but I do remember, speaking of the Sharks, that was the only goal Patrick Marleau scored while he was a Pittsburgh Penguin, was at that game. So I got to see Marleau's only goal as a Penguin, which was super cool. I got a little emotional, but it was a good time. But also, you talked about the 2010 Olympics, which that brings me to, I went to our first game back after the Olympics. So obviously, Sid the Kid, got Marc-Andre Fleury, all those guys, and we played Buffalo. This was the time that Ryan Miller was in Buffalo. So Fleury and Miller didn't start, but so this was when it was still the Igloo. It was before we had this nice PPG Paints arena and all this stuff. The Igloo was special, and I will never forget them announcing, gold medal Sid and Fleury and all these guys. And then they announced Ryan Miller, goaltender for Team USA. And I don't think I'd ever heard that place louder. It was, everybody was on their feet. Everybody was cheering. I don't even think it was that loud for when they called out Sid and all them, but it was one of the coolest things I think I had ever seen at a hockey game. I know the anniversary of it was just like a couple weeks ago. Someone posted something about it on Twitter, and it was super
Ryan
cool.
Miller had his last home game against LA, and they showed that a few times during the game. You know what? Shout out to you, Ryan Miller. You're a duck, but you're also pretty cool.
He, his last game was Mother's Day, I believe.
In Minnesota.
And they showed him with his parents and him just crying. Oh my goodness, that was, it was something. He was. I always enjoyed watching him play when he was in Buffalo when we played them a lot. So it was nice watching him play all the time.
Yeah,
they were good times. Absolutely. All right, Mac, what's up next?
Okay, sticking with the arena, your arena journey adventure. What's been your favorite so far? Which one?
Oh man! All right, so I'm gonna preface this beforehand. If you're my friend and I know you, this has nothing to do with your building. There's other factors involved. They're all great, and I love them equally. However, man, Madison Square Garden, what a building!
Oh,
what a building!
Imagine.
So good.
That one is definitely on my list of ones that I want to go to. It doesn't matter for what. I've heard that. Well, Billy Joel plays there a lot. I'm like, me and my boss have been like, we need to just go up to.
He has a banner. He has a banner.
No,
Billy Joel has a banner.
So cool. But I would love to go see a game up there. That would be amazing.
I think I have a picture of the banner. I'm going to send it to you afterwards. But
nice.
I have the Billy Joel banner.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
It's up in the Raptors. Yeah, just the whole place, it being in the heart of a city. All the different ways you can get there, the walkability, the history of the building. They don't say MSG without saying the world's most famous arena beforehand every time while you're there. Just to remind you where you're at.
To let you know.
Yeah.
Don't forget world's most famous. Absolutely. MSG. That's like I said, that one has been on my list for a while. And I know even like me and Mom have talked about New York's not that far. Yeah. I mean, we can make that in a day. But that's definitely one I'd love to go on.
Yeah, outside of California, no other place have I been yelled at more than New York. They have not forgotten about 2014, and they reminded me about it. And I went, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
But,
didn't mean to.
Yeah, well, we did, but,
Yeah,
any
but
other year. Any other year, Lundqvist, you're a gem. I love you. Great. I hope he does come back, play at least next year.
Would be
But you know,
fantastic.
now you're here.
Yep, absolutely.
Like at least once a month, I'll watch that Alex Martinez goal, and it brings me joy.
Oh,
Brings me joy, and it makes me feel good.
it was great. It was a great goal. That was a great series, and I mean, I was rooting for LA. I'm not gonna lie, obviously, because I mean it's the Rangers, and you just can't. So, but I agree. Like to see Lundqvist play again. I mean, I was so upset when he went to the Capitals. I was so upset, but I'm just like, and then when the whole heart issue and heart surgery and everything went down this year was just absolutely heartbreaking. And to see him come back next year would be fantastic. I know he was trying to make a small comeback this year and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But man, I love Swedish hockey players. They're my favorite. I have my Team Sweden hoodie at home. I have a t-shirt. I've got a Zetterberg signed Team Sweden puck. Like I love Team Sweden. Which brings me to the Sedin twins. When we were talking about that Boston Vancouver series. Man, and this I know always gets me a lot of hate. That is when I fell in love with Brad Marchand. Was that series?
Hold on, can you repeat that one more time?
Yes, that is when I fell in love with Brad Marchand. I'm sorry, I know. This was before he licked people. Okay,
what?
Yes. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well. That'll be a little homework for you.
That will be. We'll talk about that later.
Just type in Brad Marchand licking. There's a couple incidences.
There's a few. And we'll talk about that when we're playing Fortnite later, maybe. But that was right when he was like first became a thing, and I just remember seeing him. He just was going hard. He slammed someone up against the wall. He kept going. He flipped one of the Sedin twins over his backside, and when he stood up, he just dropped his gloves because he knew somebody was coming after him. And he was right. And he did. And they fought. And it was great. And I'm just sitting on the TV going, I love you. The person I was sitting with wasn't too pleased because he thought I was talking to him. But hey, that's also another story. But that was really fun. That was a great series. That was a fantastic series. But I have my Brad Marchand jersey.
I think it's you and the city of Boston who love Brad Marchand. That's it.
Probably. You're probably right. Though I did wear that jersey to the when they were doing the World Cup games before like the actual tournament. Mm-hmm. They made a pit stop in Pittsburgh and played a few games, which was awesome because I had my Gots to Spare Team North America t-shirt on, and then I had my Brad Marchand jersey because he was on a line with Sid. And it's the only time I've gotten compliments on that jersey. Like some dude ran up to me and was like, hey. And I'm like, oh, please don't hurt me. And he's like, no, I love your jersey. I'm like, thank you. Okay, sure.
Weird.
I'm just going to go with this because this is never going to happen again. So, yeah, that was a good time. Fun. So, do you have any other questions, Makenna?
Oh, gosh.
Before we move on, I do want to say shout out to Montreal, Toronto. Chef's kiss, great atmosphere, good fans, good food. So just honorable mentions. I think I'm gonna get crucified if I don't mention those two.
That's fair. I understand. So,
I think my final question is who's been your favorite player to watch?
We doing now or all time?
All time. Let's go all time.
All time. Man. So I think it has to be Drew Dowdy. Just energy, just good defenseman. You put him on the ice. I know he had a couple rough 2 years with the decline of the roster as well, but I mean he brings it. He tries. He tries every night, whether they're first, third, or the last place in the standings, and he's kind of been the embodiment. Him, Quick, and Kopitar there. Him and with Brownie, the last remaining part of the core from that first Cup run in 2011-2012. So, yeah, Drew Dowdy. I hope they at least get a competitive one more time for him because I know he's dying to get back into the playoffs and hates losing. So, I'm just excited for him. Anytime he's on the ice, it's like a warm hug. He's there. He's reliable. He's ready to go.
My stepdad has his T-shirt. It's like the only hockey paraphernalia my stepdad owns. It's awesome.
Yeah, got a signed Drew Dowdy jersey hanging in my living room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will say currently, shout out to Thousand Oaks native Trevor Moore. So we got a SoCal boy on the roster, which makes me ecstatic. And he did great this year. He had career high in goals and points. So
Nice.
it's good to see a kid from SoCal doing well and on the roster. So I'm excited. I'm hoping he sticks around for a bit. I think he's unsigned next year, but he'll probably be back because he's a RFA.
Yeah. That's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very, very cool. Makenna, we got to get you watching a couple games so you can find a player you like.
Yeah, I want to watch hockey.
Hey,
It's gonna happen.
NBC right now, you can watch a lot of games. Now, I'm not promising great things from all of the announcers, but, I'll help you. Don't worry.
Thank you. You'll be my announcers.
I used to listen to the radio while they were playing the game because
Oh.
Mike Lang is a phenomenal play-by-play, and he's called a couple games. He wasn't traveling with the team this year just because of age and COVID and stuff like that. He did call a few games when the one play-by-play guy his wife had a baby or something. I'm like, what the heck? You mean you're taking a day off for this? Guys don't take days off for this in hockey. Come on, man. Who are you? But he's called a couple games, and I think he called one or two of the playoff games so far. But Mike Lang was always a favorite and came up with some very interesting catchphrases like "slap me, silly Sydney" and "get me a milkshake, Malkin." Yeah, you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth. He's fantastic, and he will be sorely missed when he stops calling games completely. That is for sure. So, for sure. That's a good way to watch it, though. All right. Well, we have one last thing, which suggested by friend of the show, Jose Rockus.
Shout out.
We wanted to do these versus type things with some of the high name players. So for hockey, we picked out McDavid versus Crosby. So
Can't get more high name than that.
you really can't. Not right now. There's a lot of great people, but these two always seem to be compared quite often and for many good reasons. So, Makenna, we want to get your opinion first because that was Jose's whole idea, was he wanted to know what you thought about these big names. Now, we've heard us talk about a little bit, and I know you did a little bit of homework. So, what do you got?
Oh, good question. Now, can we go over, because I want to make sure I cover all my bases from some people who actually know hockey. What are the pros and cons of both of these players?
Eric,
Is
I'm going to
there
let
a
you
con
start.
for either? The biggest con for McDavid that he's stuck in Edmonton. Sorry, Edmonton,
Yeah.
but it's true. All right.
That is fair. That is fair.
God, con for Crosby? I don't think there is one for Crosby.
I mean, I'm going to go with Sid's biggest con, other than his poor head injury a few years ago, which, I mean, slowed him down a lot for a few years as someone who watched him every day after his, injury came back. I mean, I really don't think you get many cons. And I know there's going to be some people go, well, he's such a crybaby. Yeah, he was at the beginning of his career, but hey, calm down. You can't give that. He's been here forever now. You can leave it go. The whole point of a captain is to talk to the referees. So just chill out. Though I do want to point out, this was one of my favorite things from last year. Someone saw a picture of Sid in some shorts, and
hold on. Can we talk about? If we're gonna talk, I think I have a con for Crosby, and it's probably that he can't find pants to wear.
There you go. That could be it. So, someone mentioned something about his thighs being ridiculously huge, and it got back to the radio station, and they somehow came up with, can he crush a watermelon with his thighs? So a few days later, the Penguins Twitter account showed a picture of a crushed watermelon in front of the practice arena, and it was one of the most hilarious things I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It was great. Fantastic. But yeah, as far as pros and cons go, I don't know if you get too many cons with either of them.
No.
Other than, like you said, McDavid is stuck in Edmonton, which just seems to be a place for really, really good players. Though, man, this season, even being in Edmonton, knocked it out of the park. So,
yeah. I have some numbers. Once we want to dive into it, I did a little homework myself, so it'll be good. But yeah, the cons for these guys, it's you want them on your team.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it.
You don't want to play against them.
What's Crosby? 33, and he's still ridiculous. So I mean, Crosby's age might be his only thing, but even then, come on.
Yeah, he'll be 34 in August. So yeah.
It's Crosby. Come on.
Yeah.
You'll take him at any age.
Exactly. He's still, as long as he stays healthy, has at least a good, 4 years in him,
Yeah.
and probably a couple more just to, if, be a mentor to a team and stuff like that, whenever that time comes, he'll then be the old guy on the team. We always call him Sid the Kid. Well, yeah, like you said, he's 33. He's not quite a kid anymore.
No.
I'm so nervous because
So-
I don't.
let me run down some trophies
Please.
that these two guys have won. So Hart trophies, they've each got 1 so far, which is pretty impressive. Art Ross trophies, McDavid actually has 2, or Sid only has 1.
Actually, he has 3 now. Now that
and he does have 3 now since
the
season's
regular
over.
season concluded with Calgary and Vancouver finally
Yep.
ending their season.
Finally finishing.
They
after that.
officially gave him the Art Ross, so now he has 3.
He did. So now he has 3 Art Ross trophies. He got what was his final this year? 105.
105.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
105 points in that short amount of time. I mean, I know we were talking about it the other day. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Even just being stuck in your own division, that's still impressive.
Yeah.
Ted Lindsay Awards, McDavid with 2 and Sid with 1, and that's voted on by the players rather than the media, which is cool.
Oh.
Stanley Cups, obviously, McDavid doesn't have any yet. Sid's got a couple. It's fine. And then playoff games, as of the time of this article, which was when McDavid had 500 points. It was when he hit 500 points for his career.
Which they hit at the exact same amount of games played, 369,
Yes.
if I remember correctly.
I believe that's what it
Wow.
was, yeah. Crosby's played in 49 games, where McDavid has played in, I believe, 17. So, yeah, all-star teams. McDavid's done 3 first teams, where Sid's only made 1, apparently, which I thought was kind of weird. It says, this is funny, though. I like this little thing that they put on here. Keep in mind, these are all the all-star teams voted on by the media at the end of the season, not the teams assembled for the all-star game in the middle of the year. The former is the one that matters, with all due respect to John Scott.
Whoa, John Scott All-Star. We're not.
John Scott.
This is a John Scott disrespect-free zone, all right?
I love
we love
John Scott. We love John Scott here
Yeah.
so much. We were talking about him last week. So, Olympic gold, Sid's got 1, McDavid 0. So yeah, those are some of the big main stats between the two of them. So yeah, it was 369 games. So they both did it in the same amount of time, which is really, really impressive. And that's really cool, actually. I think that's super cool that they did it in the same amount of time. So
I would say I am impressed in looking stuff up that Crosby does have 2 Rocket Richards, which is for most goals in a season. Because when I think of Crosby, I don't really think goal scorer.
yeah.
But the fact that he has 2 is kind of insane. I don't know if McDavid's ever going to get there because while he can score goals, he's an amazing setup man and just draws so much attention that he doesn't have to do things on his own, but he can.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're just insane. It's interesting to compare them through the first 6 years because they're basically neck and neck in a lot of categories. Through the first 6, 1.3 points per game for McDavid, 1.3 points per game for Crosby. So at the exact same point of the year, basically the same amount. And yeah, the biggest difference is just their team success.
Really
Crosby after 6 seasons got his cup. McDavid has 1 series win.
Yeah.
So,
which is kind of sad. You see so many great players go through Edmonton, and then they just get kind of stuck there. There's only 7 players in history to get to 500 points quicker than these two. Obviously, with Wayne Gretzky being the fastest, doing it in 234 games.
That's dumb.
It is. Exactly. That's dumb. Eric Lindros did it in 352. So yeah.
Sid and Connor McDavid tied for most 100-point seasons before the age of 25 with 4. Gretzky had 7 by the time he was 25.
Yeah, basically every year.
Just casually. And then this year alone, McDavid, what a season. Averaging 1.8 points per game, which if you they played 56 games. So if you extend it out to an 82 game season, that's 155 points, which
a lot
is
of points.
the most, which is tied for the most by a player not named Gretzky or Lemieux, with Steve Yzerman had 155 and 88
wow.
89. And if we know anything about goaltending in the late 80s, it was non-existent and terrible.
Exactly. And that's basically like what the article that I was looking off of said. Gretzky and Lindros did it, and they were the only players who didn't benefit from playing in the fire wagon days of the late 70s and 80s. So yeah, that's I mean, back in those days, you just scored because goalies weren't wearing helmets and had no pads, basically. So you saw high scoring games quite often. So
it points goals per game in the year that Stevie Y actually hit 155. It was about 7.5 point goals per game. Well, now this season in the North, about 5.8. So 2 goals. You're seeing 2 goals less. So it's vastly different. And goaltending's so good. Like even the worst. I'm pretty sure the worst NHL goalie could dominate in the middle of the 80s.
Probably.
Yeah. All it takes is to go into butterfly, and you can stop everything.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
All right, Max. So what are you thinking? Lots of numbers. These two guys are just impressive.
Yeah. And if you want to kill time, just Google one of them, go to YouTube and just watch their highlights. It's insane. I've been lucky enough to watch both of them play live. And then there's the first time I saw McDavid play was in Edmonton. Flew over there for a game. And remember how I said that watching Drew Dowdy out there is like a nice hug, like he's dependable?
Yeah.
I saw McDavid do a move on Drew Dowdy, and he spun him around. And I swear to God, it was like watching my dad get beat up for the first time. Where I'm like, what's happening? Like, it's not possible because McDavid's coming up the wing, Dowdy's there. I'm like, it's easy. He stops him. No, you don't stop McDavid. And then he proceeded to get a 3-point game on us.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in the middle of Edmonton, just reconfiguring my life. Why did I fly out for this?
So I was lucky enough to see McDavid play with the Erie Otters because that's where he played before he, went to Edmonton. Mm-hmm. And that was probably one of the coolest things, I think, just getting to see him play for that small team, in a very tiny building that's not a huge stadium. Was really awesome. It was really cool. And I have, they were giving away posters where all the guys signed them. So I have his autograph somewhere sticking around.
I will say my last argument for Crosby, because I do think with Crosby being in the league longer, you do take things for granted a little bit at times, just as how great they are over time.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the guy gets his wingers paid. Like, you go down the list of guys who's gotten good contracts because it's playing with Sidney Crosby. Connor Sherry, hello. Went to Buffalo, got paid, did nothing.
Yep, pretty much.
Yes, Jake Gensel, which I think would be probably his best winger. But I was looking at that the 09 team. He's playing, his right winger was Bill Guerin.
Yep, Billy D.
Who is now the general manager over in the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible just how well he's played for so long with the type of wingers he's had. Like, he's never had like a superstar winger. Like, he elevates everyone around him so well. And I think that's
Pascal Dupuis and Chris Kunitz for quite a while, and nobody knew who they were before they came here.
Yeah, and then just remarkable. Like, the dude just wins, and I think that's the only thing missing from McDavid right now. Like, he got McDavid got Zach Cassian in a nice contract, but like, you don't hear McDavid elevating other guys the way Crosby has elevated everyone else. Puljujarvi's had an okay season returning to Edmonton, but like, besides that, like, it's the Crosby and Draisaitl show over there, which, I mean, that's all you really need. That's all you really need for a lot of the time.
That's great.
They're both just amazing. I can watch them play all day.
Absolutely, and I love when. I can't wait till we get to play teams from other divisions again. Hopefully next season, because I miss watching the Sid versus McDavid games. Like, those were some of the biggest, best ones. And even though, those West Coast games I've got to stay up late for, it was never a dull moment watching these two play against each other because
No.
you're right. They're both so incredible. And I mean, like you said, if you just Google some of the stuff that McDavid has done, some of these goals he's scored, just impressive. And yeah, and it's the same. I know you said it's nice. He's a setup guy. Sid's a setup guy too, because that's what he does. He draws everybody else away from him, and he's constantly elevating the players he plays with. I got to see Jake Ensel's first goal. It was really cool. It was at that game. It was against Dallas, because Stephen Johns played for Dallas, and he is from where I live at right now, actually nearby. So I used to watch him play like deck hockey and stuff with all my friends, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, just getting to see. I remember I was sitting there going, "Who's this kid?" My friend's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Okay, well." And yeah, he scored his first goal. Like, it was so awesome. But yeah, just and to see the player he's grown into, just having a line with Sid. And like you said, Sid doesn't have big name players. He never really has, because it seems like anytime the Penguins actively try to get him like this big name winger, it doesn't work out. And then these guys end up playing the second, third line, and then they're grumpy, and then they go somewhere else, which is fine. And it's good. Like, and even our second line, we have Malkin, Kapanen, and Carter right now. What a line! Like, I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, Sid is pretty awesome. But so is McDavid.
I'm hoping we get a little more McDavid in the postseason. I know they're currently down. I don't know where you're going to watch this, but they're currently down to the Jets 1-0. McDavid held off the score sheet for that game, but I think it's just a matter of time before he gets going. It's just, and I just want to see these guys deep playoff runs. I think it's a shame that we haven't gotten more McDavid in the postseason. So that's honestly where I think if I had to choose, probably going Crosby, just because the success he has. But man, it's hard. It's a hard decision.
Speaking of playoffs and the Oilers playing in the playoffs, Makenna, I don't know if you saw our bracket video from last week. Makenna actually has the Penguins versus the Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals.
I saw.
So we could see Sid versus McDavid, which is pretty awesome, because I was like, oh sweet, we have a league here for all our brackets. We're gonna join this one and have fun. So we'll see how that goes. She's got them. I have Vegas in the Penguins, which if that happens, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch that series. I think I'm going to just have to hide in a corner somewhere, but that's okay. I don't know what I would do with that. It would be terrible.
That's just some good story. That's just some good storylines right there.
That is good storylines. Those are the best storylines. Oh my goodness. If I had to watch us play against Marc-Andre Fleury, though, I don't know if my heart could handle that, honestly. It's probably the last time I cried that hard over hockey was when he got picked up by Vegas for the expansion draft. That was a bad night. That was a rough one for me. It's rough, but all right, Makenna, what are you thinking?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
No pressure.
All right. No pressure. That's just fun.
The fate of the hockey world is in my hands.
It is.
So going into it, I was like, I'm going to go Crosby because I've never heard of this McDavid kid. And then I started doing research on him. He's only 24, and he's already being compared to Crosby, which is crazy to me. Like, I thought they were like, same age, same deal. No, he's like a few years older than me, which is just, what am I doing with my life? I shouldn't be signing off or something. I don't know. So, I mean, I want to say McDavid then, because I think he can only go up, I hope. And maybe, I think I'm going to choose McDavid. I'm sorry, Crosby.
That's fair. You're, and honestly, McDavid has, if he stays healthy, which obviously, like I said, that was probably my biggest con for Sid. He had such a hard time staying healthy for a while after his big concussion, that he missed a lot of time in his late 20s. And if McDavid can stay healthy and, either the Oilers, get some, they need to stop just drafting first picks. Maybe that's their problem. Like, just stop getting the first overall pick.
Don't disrespect Neil Yakupov like that.
Oh man. Neil Yakupov.
He tried.
He did try. He's in Russia now, isn't he?
I think he won the Gagarin Cup this year with, I forget who who won
I
it, but
think
I'm
he
pretty
might
sure he's
have.
the champion. So
That's
good for
awesome.
you. Good for
Yeah.
you, Nail.
Good for you. I'm happy for him. I always liked Yakupov. He was always one of my favorites. But maybe, if the Oilers can put together a bit of a team here, or even if McDavid ends up leaving the Oilers or what have you, he was drafted in 2015. That wasn't that long ago.
No.
And he can stay healthy, man. He could be breaking all those records, passed it up with no problem in a lot of different aspects. But man, I don't know how you compare these two players, because you're right. They're just, I would say I would pick Sid. Obviously, but I get to see Sid play way more than I get to see McDavid play. All I get to do really is watch replays and read articles on him. But he's got a shot to really just do a lot of great things in his career if he can stay healthy, which would be, like I said, that was always Sid's con. And if he cannot have that con, he's going to have a great career.
Yeah, I think the trajectory just really depends on the team around him.
It does.
I think a lot of reputation has to do with the postseason and the fact that he hasn't been there. I think that's why you go Sid right now, because you've seen him in the playoffs. The Crybaby Sid stuff came from the playoffs.
It did.
So you kind of need to develop this reputation. You need to have these legacy defining moments. And he's had that a little bit when he went to the playoffs that one time against the Ducks and against the Sharks, actually. It only time will tell. It's a big we'll see. But if the conferences go back to the way they were pre-COVID, the Pacific is down. He's going to make the playoffs again next year if the Edmonton can find him some help. And he doesn't even need help on his line. Like, just get a decent third line, get a decent fourth line going. Find people who can play defense and let them go wild on the offensive zone. Like, that's really all you need to do with that team. And how about not Mike Smith? No disrespect to Mike Smith, but come on.
Yeah, they do. They need a goalie. They need a goalie bad.
Yeah. But everything's setting up there. He has this guy like Crosby had Malkin. He has Draisaitl, and it's really, we'll see. They need a little defensive help, but as soon as you have either of these guys, you're going to be a contender. And it's a shame that we haven't seen more of McDavid in the postseason.
Absolutely, I 100% agree, and I think that's what you just want to hope for him, is just finding more success in the playoffs. So hopefully we can see a little bit of that this year.
I hope so.
That would be nice. So great. All right, Makenna, anything else today?
Oh gosh, not at the moment.
Not at
I'm
the
sure
moment.
I have a billion other questions that I can't think of right now.
Well, it's a good thing that we do this every couple weeks then, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up then for our first episode of Mak Attack with hockey. If you have any suggestions for sports to do in the future for these, let us know. I know we want to do a basketball one. We want to do a baseball one. And I don't know anything about those sports. So please come on and talk to us about those sports. Because, I'm terrible with them. So if Pittsburgh didn't have a basketball team, and we've had the Pirates since I can remember. Like, I have nothing on those ones. It's rough. It's rough for me here.
I wouldn't want to watch the Pirates either.
I'll tell you a funny story real quick before we go. I had foot surgery a few years back, and I had it in the middle of the summer, which was the worst idea because you don't want to have foot surgery in the summer. But also, the only sport on was baseball, and it was awful. Like, well, I guess I'm watching baseball now. And I did for a little bit, and I got a jersey and everything, and then of course the guy got the jersey before left like 3 days later, I think. And that's about what I do for baseball. It's the same thing that happened last time I tried to watch baseball with Jason Bay. I bought his jersey, and then he was like traded 3 days later. So yeah, I'm like, I'm just nope, no more baseball jerseys for me. We're done here. It's rough. All right, well, our guest for the first part was Hoodie. You can find him at the Penny Marbles, at our magical neighborhood. All those fun places. Please check him out. Makenna, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PotterPants212, and then all the other things I'm on, it's the link in my bio.
There you
Quick
go.
and easy for you.
She does lots of things, and we appreciate her for that. Eric, thank you so much for joining us for this second half. You want to tell anybody where they can find you or anything else?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at _Erick Oriana. TRICKORELLANA. I don't do anything cool, but I do work in the museum field. So museums are opening up. Go visit your local museum. They need your help. It's been a long year, so it's been good to watch all the people who I used to work with go back to work and get back in there.
Makenna has a question.
Can we do a Mak Attack with museums?
Heck yeah, let's do it. We'll definitely have to do that. That'll be so much fun.
Yeah. And then I don't do any content, but my buddy Miguel Nunez does over at Collector's Lobby. You can search him up on YouTube. He's recently hit the 50 subscriber goal, and I'm very proud of him.
Yay!
He opens NHL cards, so you can also learn how to pronounce them because he can't sometimes.
I know when we did our box break for charity for our hockey group, that was great watching him do that live.
Yes.
It was a great day. And also seeing you score big with some of those cards.
True. Cale Makar, autograph Cale Makar. It's been great. He's been on a roll with the pack luck, so definitely go support him over at Collector's Lobby.
Heck yeah.
He's opening a lot of stuff. I think a new product opened released yesterday, so be on the lookout for some good hockey card coverage.
We will put that link in the bio as well. So
yeah.
As always, you can find me at Ambelina on Twitter, and you can find me here in our magical neighborhood and all those other fun places. And our D&D group is going to start back up soon too, so check that out because that's a lot of fun, and you can watch me be totally goofy on the weekends. So until next time, keep watching. Yay.